Great. Well, hey, I'm sitting here with Casey Cavell of Legacy 412. And one of the things I love doing is spending time with visionaries and what we call integrators in the EOS community. It's a treat to be sitting here with Casey because we've been running in a lot of the same circles over the last few years. And I thought, hey, let's get on a video here and go back and forth and riff a little bit about Casey's experience and all the different facets of working with visionaries and integrators and running fast growth, high growth organizations. And so, Casey, it's good to be here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your story, how you got to be here, give us some background.
Yes, sir. Well, thanks, Jonathan. I appreciate the opportunity. So yeah, Casey Cavell, once again, thank you, Jonathan, and just appreciate who you are and what you all do for entrepreneurial companies. So I've been a serial entrepreneur, started my first business, right out of school, 21 years old. I'm like, what do I want to do kind of thing? And what I try to do is associate myself with others that accomplish something similar and just try to learn, well, how did you do it? I didn't want to like recreate the wheel. And I think that's like the integrator in me, which, integrators, and they talk about it in the book Rocket Fuel, and it's an EOS term where it's all about the person that like wakes up every day and makes it happen. And I think that's kind of the person I am. I'm the one that wakes up every day, sees the vision or is given a vision from somebody else, and then makes it happen. And I'm one of the weird ones, Jonathan. You got the visionary and you got the integrator, and there's actually an assessment, and you can kind of tell like, well, which one are you? Well, I score in the 80s on both. So I have a lot of visionary, but also a lot of integrator. So like I appreciate the integrator because the integrator is the one that like actually gets it done. But without the visionary, you might not even be going in the right direction. So that's where I kind of have a little bit of both. So it's kind of unique that way.
I'd imagine that's rare. From your experience, is that rare to have somebody who's really high on visionary and integrator? Or?
Yeah, I think they talk about it in Rocket Fuel. Maybe it's 10% of the people are kind of both. But I think even if you are both, you kind of, lean one way. Like you might rather be a visionary or rather be an integrator, right? And I'm a really good integrator for a certain amount of time. And looking back at my background, I would always go into businesses that were underperforming. I would put on my integrator hat and put systems and processes and people in place. I'd buy the business. We double it, we triple it, we'd sell it, we move on. And I really sold it because I got burnt out because I was the integrator and the visionary. And what I found is if you're in both seats for a long period of time, you get burnt out. And I played both roles of visionary and integrator. And I did that, probably 10 different times over a 10-year period where I'd go in, buy a business, turn it around, grow it, sell it, move on. And then I was doing that in one of my last companies where I bought a franchise, and I got this franchise from $150,000 in revenue to $2 million in revenue in 2 years. So it was pretty good. It was a underperforming business, and we figured out a way to simplify the business, streamline the business, automate the business, all with my integrator brain. And then I'm like, I'm burnt out. I saw a vision for 5 locations, but I'm like, I'm running 1 and I'm just tired. So tried to sell it. Then found a business partner, and then we kind of created the whole Rocket Fuel dynamic where we created a visionary integrator duo, and we went from 2 million to 10 million, 1 location to 5 locations. And I worked about the same amount of time, but I started doing the things I actually love to do. I wasn't doing all the things that I was good at, but I didn't like doing. I was doing the things that I was great at that I love doing. And that's what a visionary integrator can really do. And for years, I was stuck sitting in multiple seats in the organization, doing everything. I couldn't take a vacation because if I took a vacation, nothing would get done, or things would get done, but they wouldn't get done the right way because I failed to put leaders in the business. But then once I created this visionary integrator duo and we both understood what we did best, and then I found a team to kind of delegate everything else to, it wasn't until then our business reached its fullest potential.
So I'm sitting here as you're talking, I'm thinking about whoever's watching this video or listening to this podcast. And obviously people can come from anywhere on the online, but in our world at Titus Talent, one of the things that we do is help visionaries and integrators find their counterpart. Usually it's the visionary looking for their integrator, they got to that level and I need this person who's really going to make this stuff happen. I've got the dreams. I wake up every day with looking at the future 3 years down the road. I need someone to actually run this thing. And in many cases, when we go and find this integrator and we bring them on this journey, introducing them to EOS, introducing them to this visionary integrator combo, and they kind of get really excited about it. They've come from probably a wild organization themselves, thinking, my visionary, I now know the title for them really, they need an integrator, but they have not received and then taken on board this whole EOS concept. So they're looking at exploring joining this other company. We take them down that whole journey, ta-da, they've arrived. And they're like, so here we are, this VI combo. Now they've got to try and figure it out over the next X amount of months ahead of themselves. So if you're watching this and you're like, yeah, that's me. Maybe Titus just recruited you and placed you, and you're watching this video. Casey, from your experience in all of the seats you've been in and you've worked with, I can't imagine how many visionaries and integrators, helping them figure out how to work well together. Yeah. What are some of the strengths that you've seen and people have done really well and maybe in their first 180 days? What are some of the pitfalls that we should be looking out for as those who are listening in and watching this?
Yeah, it just kind of reminds me of a funny story. So I've been married, almost 7 years. And, the first, I don't know, we dated for a year and a half or 2 years. And it was like, hey, I can't wait to get married. And she's like, hey, I can't wait to get married. And then we did. And it's like, well, now what do we do? Because she came from a totally different background. I came from a totally different background. And now we had this life that we had to live together. And that's kind of like visionaries and integrators. We all come from our own different background, our own different experiences, our own baggage, our own skeletons in the closet, and our own skill sets and abilities and stuff like that. But then we're just thrown into this thing. And it's like, well, what do we do now? But I think where, my wife and I went to is we tried to find other people that were successful at creating an amazing marriage. And we invested in counseling and resources and associate ourselves with people that have done that kind of thing. And I think life's just hard if you don't associate yourself and surround yourself with other people that are successful at whatever you want to do. So with the visionary integrator dynamic, it's the same thing. It's one, you got to have somebody else to walk through life because life's messy, business is messy, and visionaries think one way and integrators think the other. And what happens is conflict, tension, and you got to be super mature on how to handle that. And sometimes you do need somebody else to come in and just give your relationship a checkup, but also help set expectations and set up roles and responsibilities and how we're going to communicate. And what I find is a lot of visionaries and integrators, they're the right people, but they might not have the right way on how they're going to communicate. They both have the right skill set, visionary, integrator, but how are they actually going to work together? How are they going to communicate? How are they going to solve issues? How are they going to bring up ideas? How are they going to challenge each other? So I think it's, how do you set yourself up for success? Because that was your question, right?
Yeah.
So
okay, keep going. This is good.
So I think the first thing you have to do is figure out, okay, what is your role as the visionary and what is my role as the integrator?
Yeah.
What are the 3 to 5 things that I do if I was the visionary that I should be spending 70% of my time on? The things that I do that I can't delegate to the organization, because as a visionary, you have things that truly you cannot hire other people to do.
Yeah.
You got to figure out what those are. So I had the pleasure of working with Rocket Fuel founder, Mark C. Winters, and I was his integrator. And he mentioned there was 3 things that he did. He learned new things, created content, and delivered that content. And if he was doing things that were outside of that, he wasn't working within his unique ability. So if you're a new integrator, new visionary, figure out the 3 things that the visionary should be doing. Yeah. Make sure they're spending their time on those things and those things alone.
So, okay, I guess that's the positive, what they should be doing. I think, well, you brought up kind of marriage counseling or marriage conferences and things like that. I've sat in quite a few of them, and somebody at the front speaking, and they say something, and you're nudging your spouse, going, "Don't show you," We're not very good at seeing our own weaknesses and faults. But what are the typical things that you see kind of in your therapy sessions with visionaries and integrators that you're like, here are some of the just top pitfalls that I just see time and time again that really cause the rub or the friction, or like, just stop doing this, like stop, drop and roll, like fix this thing, otherwise you're going to burn alive.
Yeah,
What are some of those things that you see?
The toughest thing I think for visionaries is to let go of control, because this truly is their baby. This is their livelihood, right? And I think integrators have to realize that it's super hard to let go of control for a visionary. But what an integrator has to do is they have to show the visionary that everything's working or everything's getting done without the visionary having to actually be there and seeing it getting done, or call and follow up to make sure it gets done. So as an integrator in that first 180 days, I like to create some metrics, right? Some data, some reports that I can show the visionary and say, hey, look, just wanted to give you some updates here of everything that's happening in the organization. These are the numbers and this is the data. This is where we were. This is where we're at now. And you can see our improvement. These are the main projects that you said you wanted done. And this is the status update on a project. Because a lot of visionaries feel like it's not going to get done without them. And if you can show them that it is getting done without them, and also visionaries have that fear that if they're going to hire somebody else to do it, it's not going to be done as good. So if you could show them data showing them that it's getting done nearly as good as they could do it, right? Because as visionaries, it might not always get done at the same level that you would do it. But if you as a visionary can delegate it to somebody else and they can do it near as good as you can, and that frees you up time to go spend growing or scaling your business, you're actually better off. So giving up control for a visionary is hard. But as an integrator, I don't just want them to go away and disappear. Like, I want to earn their trust and show them I know what I'm doing. And if you can do that, I think you're in really good shape. But just making sure the visionary is not like going around the integrator and starting to talk to the other people in the organization that they shouldn't. So just setting up those kind of communication things, I think, are really important.
I'll do kind of a self-evaluation here. I've had to really work on kind of the savior complex of situations. And I've been working with my integrator, my business partner, one of my closest friends for the last decade or more. And it's been amazing. And we have very, very little conflict, which is, we have rigorous debate about things, which we love that. We love I like the friction. It's good. If there's no friction, I'm like, well, we're not really getting anywhere. Come on, let's throw something in here to mess up things. But one of the things is just making sure, dealing with my own sort of pride of saying, I can go and fix that situation. Oh, that person's, messing up, not happy, whatever, some team member. I'm like, I'll go in there and kind of overstep 3 sort of layers of managers and leaders in the organization, because I'm going to go and fix the situation and dealing with this. Yeah, but I really think I'm good at it, So I've had to like back off and say, okay, that's not my role unless I'm asked. And sometimes I'm asked. So like, hey, that's something you do really good. Can you go and help in that situation? And if I'm invited in, then I'm like, okay. But I think one of the challenges of the kind of the visionary, you said, is letting go. And the other one would be kind of that savior complex of fixing things. Something else I've learned, and I don't know if you resonate with this, I've seen this, is just that sense of, it might, you mentioned it getting done nearly as good as. I've had to program myself saying it's going to get done differently. Sure. Like, it's not going to be the way I would do it necessarily, but I have to let go of the control of saying, here's the prescription of how it needs to get done, and you're probably going to do it 80% of how good I would do it. I think it's just really demeaning for people. Like, sorry, is our goal to do it as if Jonathan did it? I hope not, but that doesn't bring diverse thought and perspective as a company. And we're going to be a very different company. It's not just do it in little minions of me, representatives of me, but actually doing things differently and welcoming that. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Huge. Totally agree. Totally agree. And, I kind of made that comment earlier around, well, even if they do it 90% as good as you, and often that, because for me as a salesperson, I felt like I was the best salesperson because this was my business and that was my unique ability and unique gift. But if you can delegate things that aren't your unique ability, people can actually do it a whole lot better than you actually did it.
Yeah.
Now, with the sales thing, you're right. It's hard to let go of control there, but you're right. And it's like on the sales side, are they going to do the same script or do the same process or say the same thing. I don't know. I kind of want them to because I know it works for me, but what works for me might not work for them. And you're right. If I have good data and the result is getting done, it doesn't matter necessarily how they do it as long as the job gets done. I think of baseball. I'm a baseball guy. People hold the bat different ways. Some hold it here, some hold it here, but they all end up at the same place, right here, right where the ball is. How you get there, who knows? As long as you're kind of like being a good teammate, get the job done. And if you have that data, I think that really helps.
That's very, very much resonates with me as we've grown as a company. And we've grown really fast. We hired nearly 100 people, salaried team members in last year, 2021, to join our team. And we're on track for that again this year. You think, wow, okay, that's some fast growth and the potential for a whole bunch of different thoughts and perspectives on the way we should do things as a company. There's some non-negotiables. Our value systems remain. Our mission is the same. You know, how we're going to get there. Some way, it's in some ways it's prescribed, but we're saying no. We want diverse thought and perspective. Bring your whole self to work. If you've got different ways of thinking, we are an innovative company. We don't want to squash you down and say don't think, just do. We don't want that. So, well, we've got a potential for our whole company. The risky part is it looking like a different company in the future, because there's a potential for that, and it freaks me out. And so I have to, but I have to trust the process and trust the way we're doing things, and trust that diverse thought and perspective as well will bring more friction and agitation, but it's going to be for our good. it's a nerve-wracking thing as somebody who sits in the visionary seat and who's responsible for the three-year picture and the 10-year core target of where we're going to go, and are we doing the right direction here? But no, it's good. What are some of the moments that you've seen, whether it be running your own business, whether going into turnaround situations or working directly with clients, that you sit there and go, oh my goodness, never again am I going to do that. Like that was the worst decision, or I caused too much damage in that situation, or I've seen too much damage caused. Maybe it's somebody else, doing that. Any kind of shocking, funny mistakes, regrets?
Gosh, I think probably not taking enough time to sit here and think, what am I really doing and what am I really building? I think a lot of people build a business and they don't really know why they're doing what they're doing. And it's important, especially as a visionary, to build a business that one day serves your life. And it's going to ultimately help not only your business reach its 3-year or 10-year vision, but you personally. So I think starting with the end goal in mind and really understanding, why are you doing what you're doing? And is this going to ultimately give you in your life what you want? I think that's really important. And then I think the next thing is just on the hiring side. There's no bigger decision you can make on who to hire and how to hire. And that's where companies like you exist, right? Because you're an expert at that. And early on, I made all the hires for our organization. I didn't ask anybody else's help or opinion. I read a book here or there, but until recently, like I was the only person making hires. And a lot of the companies that I ran, I was the only one that was interviewing or checking references. So bringing other people into the hiring process to really make sure you're bringing on the right people is really crucial, because when you make a bad hire, it's hard to get out of that, and it's expensive to get out of that, and it costs you a lot of time, energy, and money.
Oh, I got a little story on that one, kind of how I got fired from hiring at my own company.
Okay.
I'm given the privilege of speaking at the EOS conference coming up in, 10 days time or something. Yeah, probably about that. And I'll talk about this. I don't want to talk about it, but there's somebody on our team goes, no, you need to talk about this. And I'm like, really? You want me to go and talk about my biggest failings? They're like, yes. For some reason, people want the visionaries to kind of really suffer every now and again. keep them humble. So we use a scorecard for hiring. It's a process called Hire for Performance at Titus that we've crafted and created. Craft the C, then the whole the search, where do we search for people, the selection process, which includes a scorecard, and then we take it all the way through to anniversary date, performance and success. But the scorecard part and the selection process is really important. So we talk about the whole person, head, heart, briefcase, values, skills, behaviors, and really align. I mean, it's great, a scorecard. And as I'm going through the scorecard, as the last time I was allowed to interview, I was interviewing somebody, and the value alignment, they scored lower on some of our values. And I'm looking at this person, and I'm really digging in there with them on some of the integrity things of their story. And they're there like almost like in tears, like, yeah, it's just so true, so right, you know, like I'm a changed person, I'm going through this process, and I just feel really good, my character's growing, I've had a real life transformation recently. And I'm like, oh man, I'm so glad I was able to identify that and call them to a higher level. This is great, you know, but I had to score them low, you know, I had to score them low on the thing. So I went back to the team and I said, yeah, I think we should hire this person. I said, because this is the one area I'm really concerned about. They've changed and transformed. And the rest of the hiring team, this person wouldn't report to me, report to somebody else. They said, I don't want them to work for me because of that score. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a visionary. And so I can see things that you can't see, like diamonds in the coal.
Yeah.
You know, no, you don't understand because you're not a visionary. I wasn't like that. I'm exaggerating, but just kind of like, no, you should hire this person. It'd be great. And they're like, well, so I have to hire this person because you want to hire them, but they don't work for you. They work for me. 30 days in, I was on vacation. I get the call like, dude, you hire him, you fire him. Total lack of integrity, you know. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm on vacation. You know? I'm like, all right, fine. I'll do this thing. I'm like, hey, dude, like this ain't working. We'll give you your last paycheck if you give us our laptop back. And we still haven't got the laptop. That was years ago. But so I wrote about.
I've actually lost some laptops too. So you know, and that's the visionary in me making the hiring. So I can relate and feel your story.
I should have that as the session title. You know, stop losing laptops. You know, there are these times where we get this kind of like rosy glasses because we got the saving. I'm going to make this person great again. You know, like I can do it. Only I can do it. But
visionaries, super optimistic. Yeah. Integrator, super realistic. You have to have both.
You do.
And if you had that integrator in your life at that time, maybe they're asking a tough question of yourself. Mm-hmm. But an integrator should be ultimately making some of those decisions because they're going to be more, realistic. Is this really going to work? They're going to check all the boxes because as visionaries, we don't really want to check any boxes. But
right. Yeah.
There are boxes that need to be checked in business whenever you do make a hire, do some sort of initiative. So having that integrator to do that is super key.
Absolutely. I mean, we got to the point, we've got this team of people doing it now. We were coming on 200 salaried team members shortly. I mean, it's wild, the growth that we've seen. But I think big part of that is kind of letting go, trusting the process, people coming into the organization. Out of the 91 people we hired last year, all but 3 hit at least 100% of their performance objectives that we hired them to do.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's some good numbers there. And you think, okay, 2 of them are no longer with us, and 1 of them was put on a plan, and within 30 days they were back on track. I'm like, oh, that's success. We hired these people to get a job done. It's one of those funny things when people get hired, they want 100% of their salary. And I'm like, oh, wow, you really want 100% of your salary? Oh, okay. We'll give you 100% of your salary if you give us 100% performance. Deal, you know. But we've created the system around it. It's been really helpful. But I think this is the same thing with visionaries and integrators. We speak to a lot of visionaries who are hiring individuals, and they go, so what? I know I need my integrator. That's what I'm being told by my EOS implementer. But what should they do? You know, and I'm like, no. They're like, do I just give them everything I don't want to do? I'm like, that's one way of doing it. But what are some of the key things that you've seen, ingredients or things that you hold an integrator accountable to? What are some of the most typical ones that you see? I'd just be interested to know.
Yeah, so a great integrator is a great simplifier. They know how to simplify the business. They need to know how to put in systems and processes, which, if done right, processes should save you time, energy, and money. They should learn how to automate things so they're not relying on people. right? To do some of the stuff that can be automated. If anything in your business can be automated, use technology, use tools, use resources, which will free your people's time up to do more of only what they can do. So simplify, automate, put your processes in place. And then really it's just making sure everybody in the organization clearly understands what is my role, what is my responsibility, what does success look like? And
Okay.
I often find a lot of businesses, I'll go into a company and I'll ask the head of sales, hey, how do you know if you're doing a good job? Write it down. And then I'll go and ask the owner, how do you know if your head of sales is doing a good job? Well, neither of them really actually write down a great answer because it's not specific enough and not detailed enough. But even
Okay.
then, the owner's idea versus the head of sales are two totally different things. How on earth can you have a great relationship if there's not met shared
Yeah.
expectations? So
Yeah.
great integrators get everybody to align on expectations. And then really it's just making sure that you're leading, managing, and creating that culture of accountability amongst the team.
Love it. And you came full circle back to your marriage, you know, where the conflict is, where there's not met expectations, right? Clarity around those things. Clarity is a beautiful thing. And I think that's one of the biggest transformations for us as a company. We just passed our 10-year anniversary of running our business on EOS, which is really cool. But that clarity of everyone knowing exactly what's expected of them, how are they doing to those goals? You know, that's really, really, really clear. What's expected of their manager and leaders around them. But it's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. So give us a little snippet of where's Legacy 412 going? What are you looking forward to over the next 12 to 36 months? And how do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so our whole focus is to help business owners remove themselves from the day to day so they can put their family first and pursue other passions. So we do
Yeah.
that by, being a fractional resource for some visionaries in that integrator seat, and then obviously helping the visionary integrator duo strengthen their relationship. So that's what we're about. We're about getting to know business owners, where they want to go, what their real issues are of preventing them from getting there, and giving them the tools and resources they need. So we're going to keep doing that. We're going to serve as many business owners that will have us to help them do those three things, strengthen those visionary integrator relationships, and provide resources to those visionaries that really don't want to be there running the day to day and pushing all the buttons and pulling all the levers to get stuff done. So yeah, that's where we're at. And yeah, you can learn more about us. Just go to our website, legacy412.com. And then just jump on a call with me. I'm here to get to know you, learn about where you're at, where you want to go, what issues you have. And at the end of the day, I'm going to give you something that will add value to your life as a business owner. So legacy412.com.
I love it. Casey Cavell, what a privilege to get some time with you here today. And I'll look forward to seeing you soon. At maybe one of the upcoming conferences, or maybe just in your hometown. I'll come and have a meal with you. But what a privilege. It's great to see some of the companies and be able to mutually serve some great companies together. And looking forward to seeing you soon. Thanks so much for joining.
Thank you.